least 18, and are you a believer?
Yeah, I'm 18. I'm above 18, and I'm a believer, yes.
Cool. And you believe in the Christian God, I assume, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you know that the Christian God condones slavery?
Sure.
Okay. Do you think slavery is good or bad?
Um, I probably won't. I'm not gonna make like a general claim as it is like wholly good or wholly bad, but I'm gonna say that it's not perfectly good, but it's also like God can use bad things for good purposes.
So it's sometimes good.
Um, it can be used for good.
Is there another means that God could use other than slavery?
I mean, it depends on what particular thing we are talking about, but
Right, but
it is possible.
I think what you're suggesting, and maybe I'm not hearing you correctly, but what you're suggesting is that like God can use the bad thing for good, but if God was going to be so involved that he's using the bad thing to be a good, why wouldn't he just do a good thing instead of trying to turn a bad thing around?
Well, because part of the issue is that like it's not just based on his will, but it's also based on our will. Like all throughout the entire Bible, he uses bad situations and bad actions to do good things. Like,
So,
I mean, that's what I'm saying. What
was
do
it
you mean
good to
so?
the slave?
Um, in some ways, it could have been, yes.
How?
Well, like I said, it depends on the exact situation we're talking about. But I do think that there are certain um circumstances which it could have been better for them, and um
How?
I
What
do think it is
circumstance?
possible. Okay, for example, well, like I mean, you are aware that there are multiple types, like multiple types of slavery, right?
I think there's only one type of slavery. I don't include indentured servitude as slavery. Also, can you get a little closer to your microphone? It's a very low.
Sorry.
All right, so I don't care about indentured servitude. I'm talking about slavery, where God says you can own people as property forever.
Okay, so you're talking about of like the sojourners and people of other nations, right?
Yeah, well, and also Hebrew women.
Um, I don't know if that's an apt comparison. I don't think that's what I know. It does say that it does not give like a limit. Like for Hebrew male slaves, right? It says that you have to let them go after 7 days, and it doesn't say that for Hebrew female slaves,
It
right?
says the opposite. It said when a man sells his daughter as a slave, that she shall not go out as the male slaves do.
Yeah, exactly. So she shall not go out after the 7 years.
Right,
And why is that?
because she's a concubine.
I don't think that's the right word to use.
That's definitely the right word to use.
I don't know.
Yeah, because
Okay.
he purchased her as a slave, and then he
Yes.
designated her
Yep.
to be a wife. This is what we call concubinage. When you purchase a woman
Well,
as a slave, and then against her own will, you choose to make her your wife and reproduce, or you designate her for somebody else in your family. This concubinage, unless it's to your child, if it's to your child, then
well,
she actually gets to be a child to you, and she becomes the wife of your son.
if okay. Reading this, you know, it sounds like the most to me. It sounds like, what's the term? Arranged marriage.
No,
Because
read it
no,
again.
because
Is she a
okay.
slave or not?
Yeah, it's. I
Okay,
mean, just the fact that it uses that
are
word
slaves
doesn't.
and wives the
For
same?
okay. Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Are slaves and
It
wives the
says,
same thing?
well, if you read down,
Are
it
slaves
says
and wives the same thing?
no.
Okay, they're
They are
not the
not the
same,
same thing.
except when they're concubines. A slave wife is a concubine.
So okay. So if we're presented with a situation in which you have a father who receives an amount of money from another family to give his daughter in marriage
As a slave.
for the intent of marriage.
As a slave.
Okay, here's the thing.
The thing
The
is, you don't
problem
like
with
what the Bible says. The Bible
no,
says
no,
that she's
no.
sold as a slave. When a man
Yeah,
sells
okay,
his daughter
it uses that word
when a man sells his
because okay,
daughter,
you wanna know why it uses that word?
when a man sells his daughter as a slave, in contrast to the male who is sold as a slave. That's the starting point. The starting point is she's sold as a slave. Do you follow?
I agree,
Cool.
except for the fact that the word, like in Hebrew, can mean maidservant, or But it is true that like she is his property at this point.
That's
Yes,
right. Yes.
yes. But that's how all marriages
And what do we call
in
somebody who
in
is a
Israelite.
slave wife?
Okay, the reason. Okay, like I said, for one, this
The
woman now
dodging. What do
becomes
you call
his.
somebody that's a slave wife?
I don't have to answer your questions
You
if
actually
you're trying to
do.
lead me. If you're trying to lead me
Okay,
to the
so
answer
you're
that
too
you want.
cowardly to answer questions, is what you're saying.
No, what I'm saying is, are you too cowardly to let me answer the question in the way that I feel it should be answered?
I just asked you, what is the title for a slave wife?
I know what you want me to say, and I don't agree with that title.
I'm not making you say anything. I'm asking you for the answer that you want to supply. What do we call a woman that is a slave wife?
Okay, in the context, if a woman is a maidservant, I'm going to use that word because they're synonymous in this context,
What's a maidservant?
and they are a wife. Yes, it's okay. This woman is is in the Jewish tradition owned by the man, because that's how women were either owned by their fathers or they're owned by their husbands.
I agree.
Right?
Their property.
So
Yep.
she was
You
owned
think that
by the
women should be
man.
property?
I don't think that they should, but I think that they are.
Because your
right?
argument's actually making it worse.
Because in Genesis, right? Originally, this is not the case, but is only after the case, after original sin.
After
So
God decided that they would be slaves.
So it's not.
After God decided in Genesis 3:16 that they would be slaves to their husbands, says that they will rule over them.
Yes, which means it's not an ideal scenario.
Okay,
but it is
did
the
God give that
scenario which
scenario?
follows. Yeah, sure.
Did mankind invent that scenario?
Perhaps from like
We'll
other
try this again. It's a
societies,
yes or no. Did mankind
Okay.
invent that curse, or did God invent that curse?
Mankind did not.
Okay, so who invented this idea that women would serve men?
I already agreed that it came from God.
Okay, there you go.
But I
so
said that.
so
but
you
I
just
said
made
it
it
wasn't
worse for
ideal.
yourself.
But I said it wasn't.
Then why did
ideal.
God do it?
God, I started this conversation.
God is
by
doing
saying
something
God can do
of his-
unideal things.
So God is
because
doing
they're unideal.
So God is doing something of his own volition that is not idea. So now the question is, why did he do it?
Just like I said when you muted me, God can do unideal things.
I didn't ask
in
you
unideal
what he could
situations
do. I'm asking
to
you
make
why.
the best.
I didn't ask you could he do it. I'm asking you why did he do it? What was the purpose? What was the thing that God intended by saying that women are now going to be serving their husbands?
Okay, so you want me to answer the specific?
I want you to
reason
actually
for-
listen to my question and answer.
I'm listening.
I want you to actually listen to my question and answer the question coming out of my mouth. Why did God, of his own volition, decide that men were going to rule over women?
He decided because of what Eve did in the garden.
Did he have to make that decision, or did he choose it?
I don't know.
You don't know if he was forced to make a decision? Do all powerful, all knowing beings get forced to make decisions?
No, I don't think he was forced to make the decision.
Okay,
but
did he have the option to not do that?
yes.
Then he chose to do it. So the
Yes.
answer is misogyny. He did it because he's a misogynist.
Nope, that does not follow.
That
It's a
does follow,
non-sequitur.
yeah, because he
No, it
says
doesn't.
that women
No,
are
it
going to
doesn't.
be ruled over by their husbands.
Yeah, it doesn't follow though. That's
certainly
not
does
the right,
follow.
That's not. No, it doesn't.
Certainly does.
Okay, you can't just say it certainly doesn't. Can I
Well,
explain
you can't just
why
say it
I
doesn't.
don't think it follows? Yeah, well, if you'd let me explain instead of just saying yes, it does.
Go
you let me
ahead and
explain?
explain to me why God said that your husbands are going to rule over
Because-
you, and it's not a form of misogyny.
The thing is, okay, what I'm saying is God chose to do something, right? He didn't have to do it, but he chose to do it because it creates the best scenario.
But what do you mean
So
best
it's not that he
scenario?
was-
You just said it's not ideal.
Yeah, best scenario given the circumstances.
No, you said that this
I
setup is.
I didn't say ultimately best.
John, you said
I
that,
said best in.
John, you said that this was not the ideal scenario, and then the words that just left your lips was that this was the best scenario. So, is this the best scenario or not?
Yes.
Okay, so
Can I elaborate?
And why is this
Can
better?
I elaborate?
Why is it better for women to be subservient to men?
Can I elaborate first? Can I elaborate on my yes? Will you allow me to do that?
You didn't even provide a yes to my question.
I did say yes. I said yes.
What was my question?
Your question was this the best scenario?
Right. Fair enough.
And I said yes.
Okay, so then you retract your previous statement when you said this was not ideal.
I don't retract that statement.
Okay, so it's the best scenario. So it's
Can I clarify?
I don't know. Why do you refuse to let me say something? Why do you have to talk while I'm talking, John? You're the first. I've been up here all night. I've been up here all night talking to people, and we've had perfectly pleasant conversations. If you're incapable of having a conversation, just let us know. So my question is, how is it possible that this is not the ideal scenario, but this is also the best scenario?
Okay. It is not the ideal scenario because the ideal scenario is perfect. The best scenario is the best scenario given the circumstances, right?
What are the circumstances?
So, the circumstances of Adam and Eve's sin.
What are the circumstances?
So I just said of Adam and Eve's sin.
Well, we know they sinned. I'm asking you if they sinned. I'm asking you what are the circumstances that requires God to now make women subservient to men?
Because reality has fundamentally changed and human understanding has fundamentally changed.
Who changed it?
Well, God changed reality.
Okay, so it was God's doing. We keep going back to the drawing board. It's all God's fault.
Well, I just said human understanding changed because of humans.
Who decided that human understanding would change when they ate the fruit?
God did, but
okay,
he gave
so
them
it's
the
still all
option
God's
to do
fault.
So.
There you go. Bada bing, bada boom. Did God decide what the consequences would be of eating the fruit?
Yes.
Okay, so then whatever those consequences were, those are God's fault.
If God exists, you could make that argument for anything. I don't think it is really productive at all.
Super productive. I'm demonstrating that your God said women are going to be subservient to men, and he had no requirement to do so. He just chose to do it.
Like I said, he doesn't have a requirement. Yes, he doesn't have, but he doesn't have to create mankind, period. But he did.
So? We're not talking about whether or not he
should have.
We're not talking about whether or not.
What I'm saying is he doesn't have to.
We're not saying anything about what he has to do. I'm talking about what is the best thing to do. The best thing to do, I think, is to not make women slave to men.
Well, I don't know if I really care what you think.
Okay, so just tell me that you think it's a good thing that women are subservient to men.
I think it is a better thing than if he hadn't done that.
No. So God did the wrong thing.
What do you mean?
You said it would be better if he hadn't done it.
No, I said I think.
Which means you now think that God didn't do the right thing. Cool.
I mean, you can try and pretend like you're like beating me because you're just misrepresenting my.
Buddy, I'm not beating you. You're cooking yourself. You're up here saying that God is a misogynist.
You are not letting me explain.
I'd love to hear you ramble on about how it's a good thing for women to serve men. Go for it.
Is it a good thing for anyone to serve anyone?
I'm asking you, is it?
I think it is. I think it is a good thing when other people serve other people.
Then tell me how it's a good thing. Tell me how it's a good thing that women are subservient to men.
I think subservience doesn't denigrate anyone so long as you maintain their human rights. Okay. I think
so like slavery was okay.
Can I elaborate? Can I explain further?
Go for it.
I'm saying just because I'm subservient to my boss doesn't mean my boss is better than me.
You're not subservient to your boss.
I am in some sense I am subservient to my boss. Yes.
You chose to be there.
Yes, and women chose to be with their husbands.
Women
could go live.
Women didn't choose that they would serve their husbands according to God. That's God's decision. If they want to reproduce, if they want to be married, that's just what they have to put up with.
Exactly. If they want to. Like if I want to make, I chose my boss because I want to make money.
But you don't have to choose that.
Yeah, and so women don't have to choose. Women could live out in a forest.
But listen to what you're saying. You're saying that the
I
only option women have is
That's
that
not
they
what I'm
get,
saying.
the only option women have is that they either have to get married and become slave to their husbands, or they have to remain single all of their lives, or perhaps not get married at all.
Well, I was just demonstrating that I think your criticism that you're making wasn't good.
My
Like
criticism's
your
fantastic, which is
criticism.
why you're stumbling all over
No,
yourself right now. So, how
no.
long have you
Okay,
been a misogynist?
I
Do you want to
don't.
rule over your
I don't
wife?
think. I do not think the Bible promotes misogyny.
It does. On every
I
chapter, it
think.
promotes
Well,
misogyny.
mm, I think. I
Want
think
to
the
read it with
Bible. I
me?
think sure, but I think the
Do
Bible.
you think women
I
should
think the
have
Bible is the
autonomy?
only. Um. I think. Yeah. Sure.
Okay, if your sister is married and her husband
Hmm.
dies, should she be allowed to go and marry someone she loves?
I know what you're talking about. Yes, my sister. Sure.
Cool. Why does God disagree? God says, when brothers reside together and one of them dies and has no son, the wife of the deceased shall not be married outside of the family to a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go into her, taking her in marriage and performing the duty of a husband's brother to her. The firstborn whom she bears shall succeed to the name of the deceased brother, so that his name may not be blotted out of Israel. Cool. So if you're a woman and your husband dies, guess what? You don't get to choose to go free. You got to marry the next of kin.
Yeah, this has to do with the values of the society at the time.
No, that's
They
God's value.
n-
The society didn't give that value. God gave that value.
no, God gave the command.
Yes, God gave the command. Did he have to give that command, or
Yes.
could he have just said, hey, listen, if you have a woman and she becomes a widow, she can marry anyone she pleases?
Okay,
Could
hold
he have
on.
said that,
So
John?
the
John, could he have
reason.
said it?
Wait, could you repeat my? I got distracted by something. Could you repeat what you
Could
said?
God have said, if your husband dies and you become a widow, you can marry anyone you want? Could he have said that?
Yes, he could have said that. Yes.
Okay, he didn't say that, did he?
Yes, he did not say that.
Okay, and why didn't he say that?
Why did he not say that? Because if he had said that, most women who were put in this scenario would end up not reproducing. Why is that? Because of the
How do
values
you
of the
know
society
that?
at the time.
No. How do you know that?
Because the values of the society at the time prioritized virginity, right? So most
So?
people in the time would not marry someone who was previously married.
No, they clearly would have. They would have paid a lower bride price. For example, in the ancient Near East, there were
Yeah,
two
it
different.
wasn't.
I don't know
That's what I'm
why
saying. It's
you.
not ideal.
I don't know why you want to be muted every time I talk. So in the ancient Near East, you had two different bride prices, and you can even read about this in the Jewish Talmud. If a woman wasn't a virgin on her wedding night, she would get half the bride price. So there's a whole tractate dedicated to this in the Talmud. It's called Ketuvot. So yeah, you literally could get remarried in the ancient world. They got remarried all the time. And even women that were never married but weren't virgins got married all the time. They just didn't get sold off as virgins. They got sold off as non-virgins. Are you aware of this?
Yeah, I'm not saying that no one. I'm saying that most.
Well,
And that's not the sole reason.
most isn't true. You're just making things up. And it's also true that she should be allowed to decide. She shouldn't be forced into it. It's the autonomy that we're talking about. She should get to
Yeah.
decide if she wants to leave or go, leave or stay.
Well, you see, okay. Can you pull the passage back up?
Yep. It
Because
says,
one
when
thing,
brothers
important thing, it
reside
says,
together and one of them dies and has no son, the wife of the deceased shall not be married outside of the family to a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go into her. Do you think that she should get the right to decide whether or not she goes into her brother-in-law or whether she gets to leave?
real quick, I asked you to pull it
Okay,
up,
so you
but
actually
I
can't
just wanted to
answer the
read it. I
question.
wanted,
Real quick,
why'd you take it
Let
down
me
from?
dodge. Real quick, let me dodge. I'm asking
No,
you an easy question. The question was very simple. Should women have the autonomy to make that decision for themselves, yes or no?
As a should statement, I will say yes.
Cool. So then God doesn't agree with you, or you disagree with God, or both.
Um, if that's true.
Well,
But
God said that you shouldn't. God said you should marry only within the family when this happens.
I said as a general should statement, yes. But
So was God wrong when he said to do this?
what I'm saying, like, here's the thing: you're not letting me explain any of the context at all. You're
Because
forcing me
all
to
of your
answer yes or no
explanations
questions.
are in lieu of answering my question, John. If you actually answered my question, you're more than welcome to clarify your answer. But what I don't let you do is hear my question and then run away like a coward.
Well, it's just here's why I'm doing that. Here's why I'm doing
Because
that.
you're a coward.
Because it feels like you're moving past where I'm at in the conversation to just move further to your talking points.
Yeah, that's how conversations work. Yeah, you
No,
nailed
but
it.
what
Bingo.
I'm saying
What about
is
that?
you're moving-
Wild. It's almost like there's a topic on the background.
Yes, I understand. What I'm saying is this is a conversation between two people. This isn't like a one-sided you sit here and then lead the entire conversation. This is a discussion between two people. And so you have to provide me the opportunity to discuss my ideas.
I won't provide you the opportunity to pivot away from the topic we're already talking about, which is what you're trying to do. Once we get through the actual talking point, John, then you can bring up your next talking point, but I won't let you dodge and pivot.
It's not the same. I'm talking about the same topic. I want to talk about.
You're not talking about the same topic. I asked you a very easy question.
Okay.
Should women have the autonomy to choose what happens to them if they become widowed?
You
can't say yes or no. Just say yes or no.
You can say I don't know. Yes or no question.
You can say I don't know.
Well, not everything is yes or no. Some things are situationally
Then say I don't
dependent.
know.
Okay, sure. I don't know. It is situationally dependent.
Wild to me that you have to justify not knowing if women should have autonomy. Let's try this. Hey,
and
everyone,
now you won't let me...
everyone in the actual chat, do me a favor. Put a 1 in the comments if you think women should have autonomy over their own lives if they become widows. Let's see what happens here. I'm really interested to see if the chat is going to have as much trouble as the guest. A lot of 1s. Wow. It's almost like people just kind of innately kind of see the value in having autonomy and not being slaves. Why is it so hard for you to say yes or no when the chat has no problem?
Bro, this is actually like really bad.
I know, it's really cringe that you're up here defending
I didn't realize how bad
misogyny.
it was like from the outside, but like, do you realize how dehumanizing you're being to me?
You realize how bad you're getting cooked right now?
Do you realize how dehumanizing you're being to me, bro?
You're the one being a misogynist. You're the one defending slavery. You're the one saying that women shouldn't have autonomy. You're the one saying all these things.
That's not what I said.
Dodging very easy questions.
Did you listen to my answer? I said...
Yeah, he is a victim now.
I said...
Here comes the tears, guys.
No, I said...
Let's get some baby bottles in the chat for the guests.
In my mouth.
John's crying. Oh, no. Poor Johnny.
You put words in my mouth. I said I don't know, and then you just said my answer was no. So you just lied on me.
I didn't like. Listen to crying. Wow.
I'm not
crying here. Crying. Okay, so yes or no? Should women have the autonomy to choose to stay within the widowing family or to leave?
Are you asking me?
I've been asking you the whole time.
Well, you just asked the chat, so.
No, I'm asking you right now.
You're asking me right now.
The chat already gave me an answer. They're not up here. The chat's not up here pretzeling. They can give me answers.
I'm not even trying to pretzel.
You literally pretzeled. You're in like 10 different pretzels right now.
I don't know. Okay,
so we'll try this. We'll try this once more, John. Should women have autonomy over their own bodies?
I said, I don't know. Now, will
That's
you let me
wild
elaborate?
that you don't know.
Why don't
you
let me elaborate? Can you? Okay. You said that if I answer your question,
I just asked you, why don't you know?
Okay. I said I don't know because you are forcing me to give an answer as you please. You gave me 3 options: yes, no, or I don't know. And because I don't think yes or no are satisfactory options to answer your question, I said I don't know. That's why I said I don't know.
Cool. So what is the answer? If the answer is not yes, no, or I don't know, what is it?
I said it is situationally dependent.
What is the situation in which women shouldn't have autonomy?
For example, in this situation, when women have a duty to their husbands who have died.
Duty? They're dead.
Yes. You can have a duty to someone who is dead.
What?
This is what I was trying to say before.
Why is it the duty of women? Why is it the duty of women to give up their autonomy? It is the duty for women to give up their autonomy in the scenario where they're doing it for the person that they once loved. That's voluntary. Right? I'm asking about being like commanded to do it. You don't have a choice. You don't get to choose to do it. So give me a scenario.
Didn't get to choose either.
So give me a scenario in which women shouldn't have autonomy over themselves if they become widows.
I'm trying to present the scenario which you presented, which is the scenario which is in the Bible, in which both the brother and the wife do not have choice. They have a duty to the husband.
I'm not asking about the duty. We already know that God is imposing the duty. I'm asking, why should that be the case? God didn't have to impose that duty.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think it is the case because in this time period, right, people valued their bloodlines more than anything. So having a family and continuing one person's bloodline was even more important than for these people, it was even more important than their own lives.
Is it important to the woman that loses her autonomy?
Yes. It's important. It is important to the woman. It should be because because it was their husband.
Well, you're making it even worse.
Okay.
So what you're saying is that because people at this time period valued bloodline, women shouldn't have the ability to choose. So you're saying that
in specific scenarios,
that women shouldn't have autonomy because at some point in time, bloodlines were more important culturally than autonomy. So you think that's okay?
Could I say something that would show like what I'm like? Can I give a parallel to the situation?
Whatever you think makes this better for you, because you're making it worse with every time you open your mouth.
So a woman shouldn't, both a woman and a man, because we are. I mean, you would agree that both the men too do lose autonomy in this scenario as well.
Yeah, both of them lose the autonomy, but guess who gets the benefit out of it?
Well, I mean, okay, I'll answer your question, but can I continue what I was saying?
Sure.
So, I mean, I don't know who gets the benefit, the man, because he gets to have sex. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's apparent in the book of Genesis with the story of Er and Onan.
Well, you said you'd let me finish my point. Can I finish my point, please?
I never said you couldn't, but as it turns out, when you ask me questions, I'm going to answer them.
Okay. So you want to move to a different topic now?
No, I'm literally responding to the thing that you said. I'm sorry that it was too complicated for you.
Okay. Yeah, my brain is just far too small. So, what I was trying to say was that we both agree that they both lose autonomy in the scenario, right? There's another scenario which is very similar in which both parties lose autonomy, and that is when a husband is married to a woman. The husband and the woman do not have autonomy to go and sleep with people that they are not married to.
I'm aware of this, yes.
This is adultery. This is a loss of autonomy, which is good.
I agree. I think adultery is a bad thing because you've made an agreement with somebody that you wouldn't commit adultery. So yes, when you make an agreement with somebody that you won't commit adultery, then yeah, it's a good thing that you don't do it. But we're talking about God imposing this lack of autonomy on society. So because we're not talking about whether or not women thought this was a good thing. Women universally probably wouldn't have thought this was a good thing, which is why all the women in this chat think that you're a monster. I'm talking about why God felt the need to impose a lack of autonomy when there's not a need for it.
Okay. You said that there is a covenantal agreement between a man and a woman when they are married.
Yes, and we're talking about the stipulations that God is imposing. God is the one that is imposing the stipulation that if you get married, you lose your autonomy.
And part of that stipulation is that if you are married, part of your responsibility, your duty, in the same way that you are not supposed to cheat on your partner, you are also supposed to prolong their bloodline.
Yes, I'm aware. We've already covered this 5 times. I'm not questioning whether or not that is part of the stipulations that God laid down. I'm asking why that needs to be the case. Why is it the case that women shouldn't have the autonomy to leave and go marry somebody else when their husband dies?
Because they made a promise.
But that promise was only with God stipulating ahead of time that they didn't have any other choice. I'm not asking about their decision to get married. I'm asking, why did God decide that they wouldn't have autonomy?
Okay. I'm sorry, but I don't really see what you're trying to say.
My point is very clear. The God of this book thinks that women should serve men. The God of this book thinks that women are less than men. The God of this book thinks that women need to be ruled over by men and they shouldn't actually have autonomy. The God of this book thinks that women can be bought and sold like cattle. The God of this book thinks that if you rape a virgin, that she can be yours as long as you pay the bride price.
Okay, so you said a lot of things there. A lot of them are completely different topics. The first thing that I have a problem with is you saying that it thinks that women are less than men.
It does.
Okay, can you demonstrate that, please?
Yeah, it just says that you will rule over them. Yeah. Your desire will be for your husband and he will rule over you. Do you think that kings are a higher status than their subjects?
Yes, kings are a higher status than their subjects.
Do you think men are higher status than wives?
Will you let... Yes.
Okay, there you go. So men are higher than women on the social hierarchy. Men are ruling over the women. Women are less than men. That's why it says in 1 Timothy 2 that women should learn in quietness and submission.
Okay.
Do you think that women should learn in quietness and submission?
Yes.
Oh, there you go. So do you think that women shouldn't be allowed to teach in church?
They should not be they do not have a bishop position over a co-ed church.
Wow, here comes all the misogyny. Wow, he's really doubling down on it. This is wild to me. You guys have to defend these crazy positions that men should rule over women. Women should be completely silent in church. They're not allowed to have positions of authority. Should men have be allowed to have multiple wives?
No.
Why not?
Because God said that marriage is between one man and one woman.
In Deuteronomy 21:15, it says, if a man has 2 wives and he loves the one but not the other, and both bear him sons, but the firstborn is the son of the wife that he does not love, when he wills his property to his sons, he must not give the rights to the so on and so forth. So God lays out on multiple occasions that, hey, listen, if you got 2 wives, you got multiple wives, here's how to deal with it.
Okay. I will answer this thing.
Did God ever outlaw multiple wives?
No, he never outlawed it. I don't believe.
Never, not even once.
But that's an argument from silence.
No, because in the book he tells you what to do when you have multiple wives.
That doesn't mean that he says that he's saying it's a good thing.
In fact, he does say in Exodus 21, if he takes another wife to himself, he shall not diminish the food, clothing, or marital rights of his first wife. Why would he say that? Why wouldn't he just say only have one wife?
Real quick, can I answer this? And then can we, because we've moved on like 16 topics. Can I talk about?
I would run away from this topic as hard as I could.
I said I'd answer it. I said I'd answer it.
I would gird up my loins
and
get a ticket to get out of hereville. That's what I would do.
I don't want to get out of here.
Okay, so you want to run away from the misogyny conversation now that everyone knows you're a misogynist.
I don't. I said, bro, why are you putting words in my mouth?
I didn't put words in your mouth. I'm saying that everyone here now knows that you're a misogynist.
Sure. Okay, they can believe whatever they want to believe. But so I said I would answer this, and then I asked you, because this is a discussion, and I'm trying to be kind to you and what you want to do. I asked you if we could go back to some of the things which you previously brushed over, but I think are very important to this whole conversation.
Go for it. You want to go over Deuteronomy 22:28, where God says if you lay hold or seize a virgin who's not betrothed and you lie with her, that you'll have to pay the bride price and you'll never be allowed to divorce her as long as you live because you violated her? Want to go over that one?
Yes, we can go over that one, but that's not one of the ones that
Yeah.
I want to talk about.
I wouldn't want to talk about that one either. Yeah, that'd be terrible. I wouldn't want to.
I would.
I certainly wouldn't want to address that one.
I was just thinking about more like overarching like topics rather than your preferred talking points, like your claim that men are less than women because they have a lower social status than their husbands.
Yeah. God ordained it. God ordained the lower social status.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that they are wholly less than men.
Yeah, that's what that means. When God says you are going to have a God-ordained social status that is lower than men, that is God codifying misogyny.
Okay, we already agreed that, like, for example, a king is greater than me in social status.
Yeah.
But in essence, they are not greater than me because we are both humans.
No, they are greater than you.
No. Mm-mm.
Yep.
In essence, they are not greater than me.
You don't even know what essence means. What's the definition of essence?
The nature of their being.
Yeah, the nature of their being has nothing to do with their value in society. We're talking about their value in society.
Okay.
Not their essence.
That's fine.
Okay. So their value in society is that they are no better than property, which is why God tells the Israelites on many occasions that they can just go and kidnap the women and children.
Well, I don't think property has a intrinsic value assigned to it.
I agree. Yes, the women are property according to the Bible, which means they don't even have any intrinsic value because they're just property. You just buy and trade women like they're cattle. I know.
Nope. Property.
You make your God sound worse every time you open your mouth.
I mean, if you put words into my mouth, then you can make them sound however you want.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Will you let me speak?
This is a weird thing. Like when I'm not talking, that's usually when you're supposed to talk. When you're not talking, that's usually when I'm supposed to talk.
I'm just not sure.
That's just how conversations work. Now, I don't know if something's wrong with your brain because every time you want to talk is exactly in the middle of my sentence. So I don't know what else to do with you. If you don't know when the right time to talk is, that's fine. I'll just have to mute you every now and then. And you're more than welcome to get muted every now and then.
Well, there's just a delay. Like I'm not trying to be like I'm not actually trying to like it's hard to tell when you're done with an idea or when you're not done with an idea.
I don't believe so because you keep talking in the middle of my sentence. Also, do you think that for example, if I'm married and I'm a Christian and I commit a sin, that it would be okay for my wives to be punished for that sin?
You're going to talk about David, right?
You know I'm going to talk about David.
Yeah, sure, bring it up.
Sure. Do you think that David's wives should have been punished for David's sin?
Sure.
Yeah, so you think that's a good thing?
In some ways, yes.
Wild. So David had 10 of his wives raped for his sin, and you think that's a defensible thing?
Well, I mean, obviously, I don't think it's good, right?
Well, you just said it was.
But it's I said, I don't think the act itself is good.
John, do you know you're being recorded on YouTube right now? There's going to be 100,000 people over the course of time that's going to see this conversation.
Okay.
Just tell your mother not to log into YouTube anytime soon, because this is embarrassing.
Okay, sure. That's fine. There will be 100,000 people that will see me, and the 100,000 people will eventually die and forget I ever existed, right? I don't really care. But I do care about like this conversation actually being productive, right? So
I think it's been very productive for us, just not for you.
So doing things just like making fun of me and stuff isn't really, it's not very helpful.
It's been very helpful for us. We're going to clip this. We're going to post it online. Okay. I'm going to get a couple hundred hours for it, most likely. You're going to embarrass yourself. People are going to see how toxic this religion is because you're up here defending women being raped for the crimes of their husband. Yeah, this is a very productive conversation for me. This is a dog shit conversation for you.
Well, because you won't let me speak the entirety of my answers. If you stop me from speaking and only saying the things you want me to say, then yeah, this is how the conversation's gonna turn out. I'm not
Cool.
surprised.
Then
But I'm okay with
tell me
that.
how it's a good thing that David's wives were raped for David's sin.
I'm not saying that the act itself is a good act. Okay?
Was it a good thing that it happened?
It was a just thing that it happened.
How is it a just thing? What sin did they commit?
The justice is that David is experiencing the same.
It's not answering my question. What sin did they commit?
Well, they've committed their own sins, but that's not why this happened to them.
Yes, it's happened because of David's sin. So I'm asking you,
this
what
happened because
sin
of
did they
David's sins,
commit
yes.
that would warrant them getting the punishment?
They are experiencing this punishment not for their own sins.
I'm aware that's called injustice. When you're being punished for somebody else's sin rather than your own sins, that's called injustice, which means your God is not just.
If someone faces the consequences of my own actions, right? So like here's the thing. David is responsible for a lot of people. And so when David makes mistakes, there are great consequences, not just to David, but to all the people around David.
I don't care. We're talking about whether or not people should be punished for other people's crimes. Did God have to punish the wives?
No, God doesn't have to.
Oh,
I mean,
why did he punish the wives?
Because it was an eye for an eye for what David did to Uriah the Hittite.
An eye for an eye would have been one wife committing adultery.
Not 10. Because, well, do you think that would have been better?
I think one would be better than 10, yeah.
But here's the thing.
So it's one eye for 10 eyes then.
Well,
so you think women are so much property that if somebody commits adultery with another woman, that women can just be randomly graped as punishment, as payback? You think that they're basically equivalent to money at this point?
So when David committed the sin, right? He was met by someone who elaborated his own sin to him.
Nathan the prophet, yes.
Yes, right? And what did he say? He said, he gave it in a parable, and he was like, there was a king that had as many sheep as he wanted, but he wanted the one sheep that this one man had, who was like a puppy to him, right? So the thing is, an eye for an eye isn't literally like it actually isn't as monetary as you're saying. It's because the value of Uriah's one wife was equivalent to the value that was probably even greater than the value that David had for those 10 wives.
So Bathsheba was more valuable than 10 other women?
To Uriah, yes.
So they should be raped?
Nope.
Okay, listen. This is weird, because it seems like if that were the case, that God should have had David raped. Don't you think that'd be a better punishment? If somebody needed to be raped, why wouldn't God send an army to go rape David, not the wives of David? I'm still trying to figure out why they got the punishment for David's sin.
Well, part of it is that God wasn't the one controlling these people to do the actual action.
He was.
He
I'll
inspired them to act against David.
Yes, he said he was doing it. Verse 11, I will raise up trouble against you from within your own house, and I will take your wives before your eyes. So God is the one causing it to happen. If God didn't cause it to happen, it wouldn't have happened.
Well, that's a claim about like the causality of like God, like how much he has control over.
God said, I'm causing it to happen.
He said, yeah, okay.
Imagine the lies you have to tell yourself to justify this nonsense. Does your mother know that she should be serving you? Does she still cook you all your meals and do your laundry?
Because it's a.
Does she fold your tidy whities and your briefs?
Because it's a woman to her husband, right? A wife to her husband. So she's my mom. So that's just
So she should serve you. Does she cook all your meals?
Did I say that? What?
I'm just
When did I say
trying to
that?
figure out what you're saying. You said she's your mom, so according to biblical
Not yeah.
values, she should be serving
No.
you. You're second in the household behind your father.
Well, I'm not the firstborn, so but
So
but I'm. That's not okay. Okay. The Bible actually says that you're supposed to love your parents, right?
but you're an adult
And
now.
yeah, does that mean that I stop loving them?
No. Just
Oh,
means you have different rules. Like you don't have to. Unless you're still living at home. If you're an adult living at home, that would explain a lot, though.
so where do you want the conversation to move to? I mean, I don't. You just insulted me, but I mean that's. I mean,
I think you've said everything that you could say. You already said
that's
that
not true.
women are
I'm
subservient to
nope.
men. Women should be raped for the crimes of their husbands. You already said that slavery was okay. I mean, we've covered a lot of stuff. The only thing we didn't cover was Deuteronomy 22. Should we go over Deuteronomy 22? We'll end on Deuteronomy 22. This is maybe my favorite passage in the entire Bible to read.
Okay.
And I don't know why Christians they haven't figured out that there needs to be a proper response to this yet. But in Deuteronomy 22, if you're not a virgin, there's some consequences. Suppose a man marries a woman, but after going into her, dislikes her and makes up charges against her, slandering her by saying, I married this woman, but when I lay with her, I did not find evidence of her virginity. So clearly she didn't bleed, right? That's why it says, if you go to the city's elders, you're going to bring the sheet. It says, now he's made up charges against her by saying, I did not find evidence of your daughter's virginity, but here is the evidence of my daughter's virginity. Then they shall spread out the cloth before the elders of the town, and the elders of that town will take the man and punish him. Verse 20, though, if, however, the charge is true, that evidence of the young woman's virginity was not found, then they will bring the young woman out to the entrance of her father's house, and the men of her town will stone her to death because she committed a disgraceful act in Israel by prostituting herself in her father's house. So you shall purge the evil from your midst.
Mm-hmm.
Are you aware that only about 45% of women bleed their first time?
Yeah, I'm aware about this. I actually think it's a little interesting because I don't remember the name of the atheist that was in here earlier, but he provided an argument against it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting because I've heard you make this argument before, and the argument that he had was basically like what I thought of like in hearing when I read this passage. So the argument basically that in this particular scenario, it could simply just be the case that every single time at least that it would matter that God just made it accurate.
Okay, so God's just going to intervene every time. He's going to every single time he's just going to go in and make the women bleed.
I mean, I don't know how he would do it, but sure, if that is that how you imagine it?
So
sure.
if he's in control of this whole scenario, then why does he give him a test at all?
Well, because he's only in control of the evidence. He's not in control of the actions of the people.
No. Well, why didn't he just make it so that women bleed every time?
I think I can imagine a
Nevertheless,
couple reasons.
thank you for the gift.
I can imagine a couple of reasons in which it could be beneficial because it's kind of okay, it's hard to explain.
Are you aware that in the ancient world there was a lot of occasions where they didn't bleed and they wrote about it? The Greeks wrote about it, the Jewish rabbis wrote about it. There's a number of instances where innocent women didn't bleed, and we've got dozens of occasions written in the Talmud for it. You want me to bring that up for you?
Sure, bring it up for me.
Sure. So God is literally not causing these women to bleed.
I mean, if you can demonstrate it for me, please.
I can. Yeah, 1 second.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
This is from the Jerusalem Talmud, from Ketuvot. It says, it happened that a woman was found without virginity, and the case came before Rebbe, and he said to her, where is it? And she said, the stairs in my father's house were high, and it rubbed off. And Rebbe believed her. And there's a bunch of occasions like this in the Talmud where women didn't bleed, and they actually were virgins. And then they actually give a couple tests in the Talmud as well. In fact, it also says that there's a process in the time period called diverting, whereby men could actually go into women and not cause them to bleed, and they would do it on purpose. In fact, there we go. It says in the second half of this paragraph, unlike the Babylonians who are not experts in diverting during intercourse and are unable to engage in intercourse without rupturing the hymen, there are those who are experts in diverting. Therefore, rupture of the hymen is not an inevitable consequence. So not only was God not causing these hymens to bleed, but the ancient people knew about it, and they developed methods for doing it on purpose. Men were literally doing it on purpose.
Sorry, I'm back. Real quick, can I just say, in response to that first thing, I don't understand how that helps what you were saying at all.
Helps my case quite a bit, because God is literally not causing women to bleed, because women are going before the council of the elders and saying, hey, I actually am a virgin despite the fact that I didn't bleed.
Well, in that specific scenario, she said that the blood rubbed off.
She didn't say the blood.
She said what?
Her virginity rubbed off, referring to her hymen. Because
Can you
the
pull it up
stairs
again?
in her house were high.
I couldn't really read it very good.
Right?
Oh, so she
Because the activity of climbing
the
the high
physical
stairs in her
activity.
house caused her hymen to prematurely rupture.
Well, I didn't say that it always. I said that only in cases where it mattered.
It mattered here. She was before the council, meaning she was a virgin, claiming to be a virgin, and she didn't bleed.
And he believed her.
I know he believed her, exactly. Well, we don't know for sure what happened to the woman because the story doesn't get follow-up. But
it says that he believed her.
Yeah, he believed her, but we don't know like what the ruling was. She wasn't before the court.
Oh, yeah. I mean, then I guess we don't know what the ruling was, but
we just know that one rabbi believed her, and that's fine. But that being said, that means there are occasions where women in the ancient world were virgins, and they were in fact not bleeding. And we've got other cases. For example,
I didn't say.
If you read the Mishnah, it says, and let me put it on the screen, if an adult male had sexual relations with an underage girl or an underage boy with an adult female or one injured by wood, their ketuvot are 200. The words of Rebbe Me'er, but the sages say the ketuvot of the injured by wood is Amina. This is typically, the injury by wood is variously interpreted, but a lot of people believe that this is a reference to either getting in and out of a wine press or going over a fence, or some people even refer to barrel sitting. But the long and short of it is there was a practice in the ancient world that caused people's hymens to be ruptured through injury of wood prematurely, which would lead them to not bleed on their wedding night, which means that they wouldn't be able to get the full ketuvot. The ketuvot is the payment, the bride price.
Yeah, well, so I mean, I still don't see what that does against my point.
The point is very clear that God was not causing virgins in the ancient world to bleed every time. We've got even more. If you go to Yevamot and Ketuvot 11, in Yevamot it says, the verse therefore states that he must marry, referring to priests, marry a virgin, which excludes a grown woman who is considered only partially a virgin because her hymen is not fully intact. So older women at this time period were known to not bleed because they were older and their hymen were not partially was only partially attached. And then in Ketuvot 11 it says, to an adult man who engaged in intercourse with a minor girl less than 3 years old, a minor boy less than 9 years old who engaged in intercourse with an adult woman, or a woman who had her hymen prematurely ruptured. One part gets cut off. It says, and the rabbis say the marriage contract of a woman whose hymen was ruptured by wood is 100 dinars, as physically, since her hymen is not intact, she is no longer a virgin. So the hymen being intact was the determination of whether or not she was a virgin. And they assumed that if her hymen was intact, then she would be bleeding.
Okay, so for one, this is like a Jewish interpretation, so it's not like it's not necessarily like what's the word? Like it doesn't hold to like the Bible necessarily.
It's not an
But again,
interpretation.
what
I'm saying that
is,
women in the ancient world didn't always bleed,
yes, and I agree
and
with
there
that.
were numerous occasions for it, which means
Yeah.
this foolish notion that God is just going to cause all of the women to bleed if in fact they were virgins is just not true.
That's not what I said.
Because it wasn't happening. You would have to say that all of these women were liars.
No, the point that I was making was that only in scenarios in which this particular law was brought up. So a scenario in which a man was particularly displeased with his wife and sought to try and divorce her by means of her not being a virgin. Then
It's not
only
about divorce.
Yeah, okay. Declaring her like an adulterer. Only in these scenarios would he need to intervene. So it just
But he
just
wasn't intervening because there are people before the council having discussions about why I'm actually a virgin and I just don't have the proof for it.
Yeah, and then I'm saying only in it where like it mattered.
Oh, it didn't matter here because in Ketuvot 10a it says they brought him the cloth and he soaked it in water and laundered it and found upon it several drops of blood from the rupture of the hymen. How come God made the hymen bleed so minutely that they had to launder the entire cloth just to see if there was one speck of red blood on it? If God was in control of making sure these women were bleeding, why wouldn't he just do it in a way that was obvious?
I mean, that doesn't really do anything. Like,
it really does. You're the one saying that God is causing these women to bleed if they come before the court. And it's clear that that's not actually the case. And it's also clear that women were having their hymens prematurely ruptured, as it said in Mishnah Yevanot 6:4 about the priest, that he may not marry a woman whose hymen was torn accidentally, meaning there were women who had their hymens torn accidentally. And not everyone who had their hymen torn accidentally knew about it, which means they wouldn't have bled.
What I'm saying is that in the scenarios in which a husband deceptively tried to hide the truth about his wife for the sake of divorcing her, or actually, well, basically getting rid of her, but she would have been stoned, that she is, that God would only have to intervene then. And this prevents men from falsely like accusing.
Certainly doesn't prevent men at all. This empowers men. It literally empowers men to take women to the council if they don't bleed. If God knew that every woman who's actually a virgin is going to bleed, then he wouldn't have gave them this law.
Well, that's what. Okay. Like I said, that's not. I mean, obviously, God knows that every single woman's not going to bleed, but because he designed it that way. But
yeah,
what I'm saying
that's what I'm getting at. Deuteronomy 22 doesn't know that. According to Deuteronomy 22, they believe that all virgins are going to bleed their first time, which was a commonly held notion in the ancient world. They didn't learn that that was not actually true until many hundreds of years later.
Well, you're making an argument from silence.
I'm not.
Just because it's making this claim, what it's saying is if someone makes a claim against his wife, this is the evidence that you will use. Right?
Yes. It's not saying if somebody makes a claim against their wife, then the only evidence you need to have her stoned is if she bled on that sheet. That's it. That's all you need.
It's the only evidence that you have.
I know it's the only evidence that you have. I'm aware of that.
But it's not.
But the evidence is not good evidence because only half of women actually bleed their first time. We know that to be the case. We know that to be the case physiologically today. We know that to be the case physiologically back then. And we know that God said to follow the law forever. So do you think that God, like Hebrew women, have special hymens?
That's not what that's not what I mean. That's not my point. My point was...
Okay, so even today, God is intervening on behalf of all Hebrew women to make sure they bleed the first time they have sex?
No, because this law is no longer in effect.
It is.
Really?
Yep. According to Jesus and according to the God of the Old Testament, these are the statutes and the ordinances that you must diligently observe in the land that the Lord, the God of your ancestors, has given you to occupy all the days that you live on the earth. Every single day that you live on the earth. And he says in the next chapter, be careful to obey all of these words that I command you today, so that it might go well with you and your children after you forever, because you'll be doing what is good and right in the sight of the Lord your God. And Jesus said that not a jot or tittle is going to pass away from the law until heaven and earth pass away. And therefore, whoever teaches the law and does the law will be called great in the kingdom of heaven, and whoever teaches others to not follow the law will be called least in the kingdom of heaven.
Yes, but Jesus also says that the laws were until John.
Jesus didn't
The laws
say that.
and the prophet were until John.
Jesus didn't say that.
Okay, then who said that? If I'm mistaken, that's fine.
Paul said that in the book of Galatians. Jesus never said that.
I believe it's also in the book of Matthew and in the book of Luke.
You're misquoting Matthew. I'll read Matthew to you. Matthew says,
please
do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one letter, not one stroke of a letter will pass away from the law until all is accomplished. Therefore, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So according to Jesus,
I'm aware of this. No, I'm aware of this passage, but you just
according
lied
to
about
the
me.
words of Jesus, anyone who is going to be great in the kingdom of heaven seems to be tied to whether or not they're following the law.
Yes, but you said that I misquoted, but I was right. So in Luke 16:16, it says the law and the prophets were proclaimed until John. That's what the NIV says.
Yeah.
In
Proclaimed.
Matthew, it says for all the law, all the prophets and the law. Hold on. For all the prophets and the law prophesied until John.
Yeah. They were.
Let me see.
Didn't say they're going away. Didn't say they're being done away with. It doesn't say they're going to be.
I'm not saying.
Doesn't say that they're going to be.
Oh, I'm not saying that. Oh,
it
yeah,
doesn't
my
say
bad.
that they're going to be followed until John.
Okay. Let me make it very clear. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that they were canceled.
Okay, so according to Jesus, following the law, it makes you great in the kingdom of heaven. Yes or no?
Yes.
Cool. So we're back at square one. Jesus
but
said
what did
that
Jesus, But what did Jesus?
We're back at
claim
square
to do
one. Jesus said you should follow the law, and by following the law, you'll be great in the kingdom of heaven. Can we agree on that much?
Yes.
Cool. And does the law include Deuteronomy?
Well, okay. It says. That's
a yes or no question. Does the law include Deuteronomy?
It might include.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, yeah, I'll actually say yes. I'll say yes on this.
Mm-hmm.
But Jesus says before he says that, he says he's not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it, which means it is not complete, which means the whole law which Jesus is telling you to follow is not simply what is written in the law, but is what Jesus is fulfilling.
Do you know what the word fulfill means?
I think it literally means like to fulfill or to bring to completion or like to make full.
To complete the requirements of, yeah. Does that mean abolish?
I mean, he very clearly says not abolish.
There you go. Okay, so Jesus didn't come to abolish the law. So if he didn't come to abolish the law, then that means he didn't come to get rid of them.
But yes, that's true.
Oh,
but
there you go.
That does not mean.
So all this work just to run away from the law. It's wild. So
no, that does not mean that they.
You're so embarrassed by the laws of Moses that you're trying desperately to find a way to say that the law like somehow was like imperfect and needed to be done away with. But listen, anyone in the New Testament who comes along and says that God didn't intend the law to be forever, that person is a heretic, because God tells you over and over again to follow this law forever. In fact, he says, write it on stone tablets, recite it to the congregation of Israel every 7 years, and every time there's a new king, make a new copy of these laws and give it to the king so that he can follow them and obey them and have the people follow them and obey them.
But the law doesn't just include Deuteronomy.
No, it includes the 5 books of Moses.
And in those books of Moses, there is the necessary fulfillment of Jesus, right?
No, Jesus doesn't show up anywhere in here.
Well, I mean, I believe he does as the angel of the Lord, but like it doesn't mention his name. It doesn't say Jesus,
That's
obviously.
adorable that you think
but
he's the
Jesus
angel
is
of the
there.
Lord. We're talking about the law, though.
Well, but that means he's in the law. Okay, what I'm
He's not
saying
in the
is
law.
that well, we just said okay. Did we just say that Jesus? Did we just say that the angel of the Lord is in the law? I mean, we
The
didn't say
angel of the
that,
Lord is not in the law.
but you just said the law was the first 5 books of Moses.
No, I'm saying the first 5 books contain the law, and they refer to it as the law of Moses. So if you're using it in that sense, then yes, the angel of the Lord does appear in the
Yeah,
first
that's what
five
I'm
books
saying.
of the Bible. But I'm using it as an equation. Sounded like you were saying that the angel of the Lord is the law, and that wouldn't be true.
Well, what I'm saying is that the law is not simply what is written down in the books of Deuteronomy and Leviticus,
Oh
right?
well, what is
That's
it?
not the law is it's more than just what is written down.
Where can I find that?
Um, it's because the law is um how do I say this? Okay. Well, if Jesus is saying fulfill the law, then obviously the whole law is not there, right?
Yeah, he says that the law and the prophets he came to
The law
fulfill.
and the prophets,
Yep,
yes.
and whoever does the law, whoever obeys the law, will
Mm-hmm.
be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So you've already conceded that following the law of Moses is a good thing. So I don't know why you're dodging this whole law of Moses
Well,
nonsense. You've already
what I'm
conceded the
no,
argument.
what I'm saying is that there is a greater law which is completed in Jesus.
I disagree. I don't think Jesus completed a damn thing. He didn't fulfill a
Well,
single messianic prophecy. He didn't say anything about the law of Moses going away. And you're doing all of this because you're embarrassed of what the law of Moses says.
I'm not, and I mean, you just made a bunch of claims. I don't agree with those claims.
They're true.
Um, I mean, I'm sure you believe they're true.
No, they're true.
I mean, you could try and demonstrate them to me.
I debate them every week, 3 nights a week. I debate these topics, and not a single person has come even remotely close to showing me one prophecy that Jesus fulfilled. The closest you can get to is Deuteronomy 13, where God said he's going to send false prophets. I'll just give you an example of how the
Sure.
Bible is lying to you on the prophecy
Okay.
nonsense. In Jeremiah 31, do you have a Bible? I'll put it on the screen if you don't.
I can find it myself, but yeah, you can put it on the screen.
Yeah, go to
That'd be
Jeremiah
nice.
31, 15, and 16.
Okay.
It says, "Thus saith the Lord, a voice is heard in Ramah, a lamentation and bitter weeping. Rachel is weeping for her children. She refused to be comforted for her children because they are no more. Thus saith the Lord, keep your voice from weeping and your eyes from tears. For there is a reward for your work, says the Lord. They shall come back from the land of the enemy." What's this about?
Um, I'm not sure what the context is
Not
here.
sure. When did Jeremiah write?
Um, actually, I don't know. I'm not. I mean, I don't know everything about the
Jeremiah
Bible.
wrote just before the Babylonian invasion, and he wrote during the Babylonian invasion. He's referring to the women weeping over their children being carried off by
Okay,
the Babylonians, which is why in chapter 25, he says that they're going to be in Babylon for 70 years and then they're going to come back, right?
sure.
So the context here is pretty clear. He's saying, keep your voice from weeping because they're going to come back from the land of the enemy. That's not ambiguous, is it?
Um, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not familiar with this verse, so I don't. I
Well,
mean, I don't
who's
know.
the enemy?
The ones that have them captive, obviously. I mean,
Babylon,
based on
right?
what you've
Okay.
described.
And what does it mean to come back from the land of the enemy?
Um, I mean, it could mean a lot, but
You
but
mean a lot.
based on, I mean, they could come back because the enemy is bringing them back while they're all captive. But in this context, it does seem that they are saying like victorious because it says for your works shall be rewarded.
Yeah, I mean, just keep reading in the chapter. He tells you what's
Yeah.
going to happen. It says, there is hope for your future, says the Lord. Your children shall come back to their own country. Not hard. They're going to go to exile. They're going to come back. It's not hard, right?
Okay.
Okay, cool. Now, the problem with this is if you go to the New Testament, Matthew's going to tell you a whole bunch of lies about this. Let's do 17 through 19 in Matthew chapter 2. When the babies were executed in and around Bethlehem, it says, then what had been spoken through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. A voice was heard in Ramah, wailing and loud lamentation. Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be consoled because they are no more. So, but that's clearly not at all what Jeremiah is talking about. Jeremiah is not talking about a bunch of babies being killed in Bethlehem. So Matthew's just making stuff up.
Wait, can you read that again? I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't really get what you're saying.
Yep. When the babies are executed in Bethlehem, it says, then what had been spoken through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. A voice was heard in Ramah, wailing in loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be consoled because they are no more. So
yeah, what about that?
Matthew's making things up. We just read Jeremiah. Jeremiah is not about a bunch of babies being executed in Bethlehem.
Well, I haven't read the full chapter. I mean, it could.
It doesn't.
I mean, I can't just take your word for these things.
I mean, you should. I've done this longer than you. I know the Bible better than you. Let's do another one. Let's go to Hosea 11.
Okay. Go to Hosea 11 for me.
In Hosea 11, it says, when Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. The more that I called them, the more that they went from me, and they kept sacrificing to the Baals and offering incense to idols. This is clearly the history of what?
The history of, I mean, the early Israelites, right?
Yeah, when they left Egypt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because God said in Exodus chapter 4:22 that Israel is my firstborn son, and I'm releasing them from Egypt. And then what they do? They made the golden idols and they started rebelling, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Is this a prophecy or is this just history?
Like I said, I don't know. I mean.
What do you mean you don't know? It's all in the past tense. When Israel was a child, I loved him. Is that past tense or future tense?
No, yeah, that's past tense.
Okay, so that's what we call history. When we talk about events in the past, that is called history. But if you go to Matthew chapter 2, where we just were, and go to about 13, it says, starting 14, then Joseph got up and took the child and his mother by night and went to Egypt and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what had been spoken through by the Lord through the prophet, out of Egypt I have called my son. There's no prophecy in Hosea 1 and 2. We just read it. It's just a history of the Exodus.
Wait, it said we just read Hosea 11.
Yep.
And then you just wait.
This was to fulfill what had been spoken by the Lord through the prophet, out of Egypt I have called my son.
Oh, okay. So you're trying to say that because it's past tense and it's history, it can't be a prophecy.
Yeah, prophecies are clear forms of speech. They're not just random words on a page that sound like something else.
Yeah, but I don't think. Okay, like sure. A strict prophecy is one that's like blank will happen, and then like maybe there's more details or something. But I think there can be prophecy. Like, I mean, I guess prophecy might not be the right word to call it then, but there can be things which are pointing to things in the future.
How would you know?
Might not be. Well, it partly depends on context and partly depends on.
Okay, sure. Let's go over the context of Hosea then. Cool. Show me in the context how you would determine that this is a prophecy.
Well, like I said, I haven't read it. I mean, if you want to give me time to read it, I can read it right now, but.
Go ahead. On the screen.
It's kind of hard to read it from your screen, but
you got a Bible, right?
On my own. Yeah, I'm trying to read it myself. And then you're also comparing this to the verse that I pulled up on Matthew.
Matthew 2:14 through 16.
just so I can compare.
Well, while you're doing that, I'll read a super chat here. Riley, good to see you in the house tonight. Riley says, if you can't say clearly that women should have autonomy, then you can't accuse anyone of dehumanizing anyone. Yeah, I agree with that. A big W for Riley. Thank you for that. And J Mule, thank you for the $10 super chat. Says, correction, Christian worldview is Jeebus all present. Isn't a convo between three people. How do Christians forget about Jesus like that? Isn't this the whole purpose of their being? Oh boy. Yeah, it's amazing like how often like there's a 4v1 in here between the guest and the Trinity and me, and for some I guess I have Satan on my side, but Satan seems to always win these discussions. Oh shit, I see you, Johnny. Johnny, you see Johnny, I did. Oh, let me check. Johnny, thank you so much, man, for the 66. Yeah, guys, follow Johnny Barrios. He's up in our TikToks right now. Thank you so much for the 666, Johnny. I really appreciate it. Guys, if you need a tattoo, call up Johnny Barrios. He'll get you hooked up. Did you read it, John?
I'm almost done. Just give me a second, please.
Go ahead. Johannes Brahms, thank you for the $2 super chat. Says, women are property. You're dehumanizing me, John. Yeah, I know. That's what he's been doing the whole time. And I Heart Dogs, welcome in tonight. Thank you for the $5 super chat. It says, if brother produces a daughter, does he keep going until a son is produced? That's the goal. Yep. If you don't produce a male offspring, you keep on doing the thing. All right, John, what do you find?
Well, I'm just saying, okay, like obviously I don't have time to read this in depth, but it does seem like there's some language throughout the whole chapter and in previous chapters that is quite like future tensed.
Yeah, there is a prophecy in the chapter, just not the section we're reading. It starts in like verse 6, right? So what's happening here is God is giving a history the same way he does in other prophecies. He's saying, here's the history, what is leading up to the events right now. This is why you're about to be punished, right? It says, when Israel was a child, I loved him, so on and so forth, right? It says, yet it was I who taught Ephraim to walk. I took them in my arms, but they did not know that I healed them. I led them with cords of human kindness, with bands of love. I was to them like those who lift infants to their cheeks. I bent down to them and fed them. They shall return to the land of Egypt, and Assyria shall be their king, because they have refused to return to me. So God is laying the groundwork for why he is executing judgment on them. I brought them out of Egypt. I loved them. I was a father to them, but they rejected me. Now they're going to go back. So the prophecy is not in verse 1 and 2. The prophecy doesn't start until you get to verse 5.
Yeah. Wait, so that's your contention with this?
Yeah, a prophecy is very clear. We know what a prophecy is, and we know what a history is. God is telling the history of Israel to justify the prophecy that they're going back into slavery.
Okay. Well, I think one problem with this is that like in the past they didn't have like verses and chapters, right?
I don't care about the verses.
When you would quote something from the Old Testament, often you would just start by writing the first part of
the verse numbers are irrelevant.
Of the thing.
They have nothing to do with what we're talking about. I'm saying that God gave a retelling of history that is the justification for what he's about to do to them. So if I'm a judge, I'm say, listen, I was good to you, or a judge. Say I'm in court and I'm before a judge and say, I was good to you. I did everything you wanted me to, but you rejected me. And because you rejected me, now I'm going to do this to you. What part of that is history and what part of that is prophecy?
Well, obviously history is the part where it's like it's recounting
Nailed it.
the things
Yeah.
they did. But what I was trying to say is like, okay, like I obviously I don't know exactly what this prophecy is saying, but just purely the fact that it's quoting one part of the prophecy that isn't like that doesn't seem like a just claim to like
It's a
this
very
being
just claim because
because
the part that he quoted wasn't a prophecy.
yeah, but it was the context of the prophecy. So if
Yeah, the context
so
dictates
if
that what
someone
we just
wants
read
to,
was history. I'm aware.
well,
That's the
well, I
problem
know
is the context of the passage tells us that it's not a prophecy.
what I'm saying is that um that okay, like again, I don't know what the prophecy is because I haven't read this part. Like I haven't studied this part. But if Matthew is trying to connect this prophecy to Jesus,
It's not a prophecy.
him
That's the point.
well
Verse 11,
the
1 and
whole
2
prophecy, the whole prophecy
contains
of this
no
chapter.
prophecies. And the
Yeah,
prophecies of
verse 1
this
and 2 then.
chapter is not about the Messianic age. The prophecy of this chapter is about the Assyrian captivity. Have you read Hosea?
That's the part that I'm just not sure about. I mean,
Well,
like I'm sure it's related
Hosea
to,
lived
but
700 plus years before Jesus. His
yeah,
prophecy is to the Israelites, both the north and the south. And he prophesied that the Assyrian army is going to come in and wipe out the northern tribes.
yeah.
That's what the prophecy is about. There's no prophecy of a Messiah anywhere in here. That's why he says in verse 9, I will not execute my fierce anger. I will not again destroy Ephraim. The prophecy is about the destruction of Ephraim, right? How can I give you up, Ephraim? It's northern Israel. He's saying that the northern Israelites are going to be wiped out.
Yeah, okay. I'm not trying to be, like disingenuous or anything, but like I'm just not familiar with this.
I know.
After this, I'm gonna study this one particularly. I mean, there's some language like I don't know. I can't just like reading this for the first time. I can't make any claims about it. So
Sure.
I can't make any claims in good faith. I have to try and study this one myself.
Mm-hmm. Want to read an easier one?
Sure. I
Cool.
like easy.
All right, there's a narrative in which Jesus is transfigured on a mountain, and listen to the conversation after. It says, verse 33, just as they were leaving him, Peter said to Jesus, Master, it is good for us to be here. Let us set up 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, one for Elijah, not realizing what he was saying. While he was saying this, a cloud came over and overshadowed them, and they were terrified as they entered the cloud. Then from the cloud came a voice that said, this is my son, I chose, and listen to him. So on and forth, right? It says, then the voice had spoken, Jesus was found alone, and they kept silent, and in those days, no one, they told no one of any of these things. Let's see. On the next day, actually, we want the edition from Matthew has the actual conversation. That's Matthew 17 has the conversation we're looking for. Okay. So at the transfiguration, after it says, the disciples asked him, why then? We'll start in 9. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus ordered them, tell no one about the vision until after the Son of Man has been raised from the dead. And the disciples asked him, why then do the scribes say that Elijah must come first? He replied, Elijah is indeed coming and will restore all things. But I tell you that Elijah has already come, and that they did not recognize him, but they did to him whatever they pleased. So also the Son of Man is about to suffer at their hands. Then the disciples understood that he was speaking to them about John the Baptist. And you already know that elsewhere in the New Testament, like Luke chapter 1, John the Baptist is equated to being Elijah.
Yeah.
Right? Do you believe that John the Baptist was the Elijah?
He was not the reincarnation of Elijah.
Right, but did he fulfill the prophecy of Elijah coming?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Let's read Malachi chapter 4 where that
Okay.
comes from.
Yeah.
It says, see, I will send you the prophet Elijah before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes. He will turn the hearts of parents to their children and the hearts of children to their parents, so that I will not come and strike the land with a curse. So this is actually supposed to be a restoration of the Israelites, which is why at the beginning of the chapter, he talks about how the Israelites are going to be restored. Remember the teaching of my servant Moses and the statutes and ordinances that I commanded him at Horeb for all Israel. Right? The goal is to turn the hearts of Israel back to God so that the land doesn't get cursed and they don't get driven from their land. But that's the exact opposite of what happened. After Jesus and John the Baptist died, the Jews were devastated in 70 by the Romans, and then again in the 2nd century, 132 to 136, they were completely driven from their land.
Hold on.
So John couldn't have been the Elijah as predicted if he didn't actually turn the hearts of the Israelites back to their God.
Does it? Okay. Wait. So, just can you run me through exactly what your argument here is?
Yeah, my argument is very clear. If you read the prophecy in chapter 4, this is about the day of the Lord, when God comes and judges all the wicked and restores Israel to himself. See, the day is coming, burning like an oven, when all the arrogant and all evildoers will be stubble. The day that comes shall burn them up, says the Lord of hosts, so that it will leave them neither root nor branch. But for you who revere my name, the Son of Righteousness shall arise with healing in its wings. You shall go out leaping like calves from the stall. You shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet. On the day that I act, says the Lord of hosts, remember the teachings of my servant Moses, the statutes and ordinances that I commanded him at Horeb for all Israel. See, I will send you Elijah before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes, and he will turn the hearts of the parents to their children and the hearts of the children to their parents, so that I will not come and strike the land with a curse. So this is all talking about the day of the Lord, which means since none of this actually happened, Elijah couldn't have been John the Baptist.
Oh, wait, I don't see how that follows. He just says, before that great and dreadful day, he will send the prophet Elijah.
Yeah, and then what's he going to do?
And, okay, he will turn the hearts of the parents to their children, and the hearts of their children to their parents.
So that what?
Or else I will come and strike the land with total destruction.
Okay, did the land get totally destroyed?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
No,
okay, so then John the Baptist wasn't Elijah.
Well, so you're saying okay. So why exactly are you saying
you just said it out loud? Why is this so hard? Okay, did God strike the land with destruction?
No.
He did. They were devastated entirely by the Romans, completely wiped out.
Oh, okay, wait. I thought we were okay, hold on. So you're talking about a specific you're talking about this as a prophecy about a specific like war or them losing to the I'm looking at this as a prophecy about Jesus and John the Baptist.
There's no Jesus mentioned here. There's no Messiah even mentioned here.
This verse is actually interesting because it has in verse 2 it says, "But for you who revere my name, the Son of Righteousness will rise with healing in its rays," right?
Yeah. The sun.
But
sunshine.
Yeah, no, I know. But it's this one's been compared. It's a very interesting one. It's been compared to when Jesus healed the woman who was menstruating. This is the sun. This has been shown.
The physical sun. What we're talking about. Yeah. Are you aware that the
son
word
of righteousness?
Are you aware that the sun in Hebrew and Greek is not the same as it is in English?
Yeah,
they don't sound the same. Sun and sun only sound the same in English.
Where the comparison comes from is not in that part, but in the part that says where it says rays. That word.
Sun rays. Yeah, it probably says Karen in the original Hebrew. Yeah.
The words are actually it's the same words that is used for the tassels on the end of someone's robe.
I know. It's the same word used for the horns coming out of Moses' head. It's Karen in Hebrew. I know.
I don't know if it's Karen. Let me see. I actually had this before. Let me see. Is this Greek?
Hebrew.
No. In Hebrew, it's kanaf. In Greek, it's kraspedon. These are the words.
The
being
Old
used.
Testament was written in Hebrew, though.
Yeah, no, I know. What I'm
Okay.
saying is
The New Testament was written in Greek.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, so in Greek it uses the word kraspedon, right? When specifically describing the woman being healed by touching the kraspedon of Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus's things.
Mhm.
This is the equivalent to kanaf, which is the word that's being translated raise here, but it's the equivalent also translating to the same edge of a garment that is used.
Yeah. Do you know what kanaf means in Hebrew? It just means the furthest extent of something.
It
refers to the wings of a bird. It even refers to the corners of the earth are described as kanaf. So
yes. It says
it's talking about
it's
talking about the rays of the sun.
I mean maybe, but what I'm saying.
No, it's not a maybe. That's what it says. It says, "You who revere my name, the sun, Shemesh in Hebrew, the physical sun of righteousness shall arise with healing in its wings." Meaning the sun that's going to arise will have healing for the nation of Israel to the furthest extents.
But the sun that's rising is like it is possible that this is symbolic because it's not symbolic. It's not the sun.
Is Jesus a sun god?
It's the sun of righteousness.
Is Jesus a sun god?
I'm saying it can be symbolic.
Is Jesus a sun god?
No.
Is he a disk god?
No.
Is he affiliated with the sun whatsoever?
Only insofar as the sun might be affiliated with light, perhaps, but
okay. So then this is talking about a physical sun, not a metaphorical sun. Sun and sun only sound the same in English.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like the sun can still be symbolic for the sun can be symbolic for many things.
Yeah.
Right? Like when Jesus says his sun, he causes the sun to rise on the good and the evil. I mean, he's obviously not talking in that scenario about literal sun. He's talking about like good things.
So if this is about Jesus, then please tell me when the Israelites tread down the wicked and they became ashes under the soles of their feet. When did that happen?
In my version, it says then after the healing and the frolicking.
Well, mine says and.
I don't know if this word is
Malachi 3:1 probably just has a vav conjunction in it. You actually know Hebrew?
I do not know Hebrew.
This is be a rough ride for you.
Okay. I mean, but unfortunately that does lead me prey to you just telling me, whatever. I have no way to fact check it.
I know you don't. Yeah. Yep. What it says. Up on the screen so you can see it. I'm not lying to you. This is a vav conjunction, this first letter right here. Oh, I can't highlight it for some reason. It won't let me highlight it. All right, there we go. It's a vav conjunction. It just means and.
It said, okay, I just looked up. The conjunction vav is a highly versatile biblical Hebrew and can mean and, but, then, so, or even or.
Yep. And do you know when to translate it as a then?
When?
When you have a narrative that is sequenced.
I mean,
so it's just referring to a
sequence to me.
Just referring to a sequence of events, not events that are hundreds or thousands of years apart. Like you will go to the store and you will buy bread and you will buy milk and you will buy lemon juice. It's not saying you'll go to the store and you'll buy bread and then 1,000 years later you'll tread down the wicked. It's a narrative sequence all about the day of the Lord.
Yeah, but is the day of the Lord a one-day thing? When it says the day?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case.
The day of the Lord is not that the sun is going to rise and bring healing in its wings, and then thousands of years later, you're going to trample down the wicked, and there'll be ashes under the soles of your feet.
Well, like I said, the day is like. So you're saying this happens in a 24-hour cycle, is what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that this is a narrative sequence. Narrative sequences don't have breaks of thousands of years in them. Called the Day of the Lord.
I mean, okay, I'm looking up the word right now, and it says it can refer to a 24-hour period, the daylight hours, or an indefinite period of time.
What word?
Yom.
Yeah, Yom. Yes, the day. Yeah, the day.
Yeah.
Yom can mean an indefinite amount of time when it's Hayom or Hayamim, meaning the days, plural. This is why like looking up words in a dictionary aren't going to help you, because as it turns out, the way that you interpret the words depends on how the word is used.
Yeah, no.
And when it's referring to days that are indefinite, it doesn't use the singular, it uses the plural.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, okay. Like, I'm just trying to understand it and not just take everything you say as law. I'm trying to critically, analyze this as best as I can, given my limited knowledge.
Right.
I mean, that sounds fair
enough.
Fair practice.
Yep. All right. Well, listen, I think we've talked for quite some time. I've got some people that have been waiting in the guest box for a while to get in. I think I'm going to move on and grab them, but you're welcome to come on back anytime, John.
Okay, I'll probably come back. I mean, I appreciate you having me on, I felt like sometimes you were not letting me say exactly what I wanted to say.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Portraying my ideas.
Yeah, sure. When you were defending misogyny and rape and slavery, yeah, you're right. I wasn't letting you talk.
I mean, if that's
when
what
you were defending misogyny, rape, and other things, and you were doing it while talking over me. But you can get out of here now.